Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, welcome to Clarity for Sure once again, and welcome to another session of SEBI Sprint where we are covering each and every current affairs. Those are relevant for your upcoming SEBI examination. So in today's session we are going to cover October current affairs, right? Previously we have already covered September's current affairs in our YouTube channel, right? So in today's session we are going to cover October current affairs. These are the table of contents we are going to cover in today's session, right? And the PDF will be provided to you in our new Telegram channel. I'll leave the link of the Telegram channel in the description box, right? So in today's session what we'll do is we'll try to solve some of the MCQs related to these topics, and at the same time I'll try to give a brief context and background of the question from where it has been taken from. Clear? So let's start our today's session, right? This is our first question which we are going to cover, right? This is the question number 1 of today's session, right? This is related to Parva and performance disclosure. Clear? Now, what is the question? Let's see. With reference to SEBI's interim relief on performance data disclosure by investment advisors, that is IAs, and research analysts, that is RAs, consider the following statements. These are the 3 statements given over here. We have to find out the correct ones here. IAs and RAs can publicly advertise their past performance until Parva becomes operational. This was our first statement. Second statement, past performance data shared with clients must be verified by a CA or CMA. Sorry. Third one is, after Parva becomes operational, only Parva verified data can be used, right? So these are the 3 statements given over here. We have to find out the correct ones here. So first let me show you from where this question has been taken from. This question has been taken from here only. This was the news, right? SEBI has granted interim relief to investment advisor and research analysts, allowing them to share past performance data with clients until the past risk and return verification agency Parva becomes operational. So what was our first statement? IAs and RAs can publicly advertise their past performance, right? And here it is clearly written, allowing them to share past performance data with clients, not publicly, right? Their past performance until Parva becomes operational. So your first statement becomes absolutely incorrect, right? Second statement, past performance data shared with clients must be verified by CA or CMA. What are CA? CA are chartered accountants and CMA chartered management accountants. Verification must be by a CA or CMA. It is clearly written over here, right? So your second statement becomes absolutely correct. Third is, after Parva becomes operational, only Parva verified data can be used, right? Here you can see, yes, becomes operational, only Parva verified data can be used, which means your third statement is also correct, right? Advisors must register with Parva within 3 months of its launch. This was also very important point, right? So your correct answer here will be option number B. 2 and 3 statements are correct and 1 is incorrect, right? Clear? Let's move on to our next question. Question number 2. Investment. This question is related to investment advisors versus research analysts. So the question is, which of the following correctly differentiate investment advisors from research analysts? And the options are: IAs provide general market commentary, RAs provide personalized advice. The second statement is, IAs follow a fee only model, but RAs publish independent research report. IAs are governed by SEBI RA regulation 2014. RAs must avoid all disclosure of conflicts of interest. or RAs are not required to register with SEBI. These are the 5 points, and you have to tell me which is the correct point to which differentiates research analyst from investment advisor. Right? Question number 2. Right? So these are the points which are clearly written over here. Let me show you. Right. Fine. So these are the prime difference between investment advisors and research analysts. These are registered with SEBI under SEBI Investment Advisor Regulation Act of 2013. They provide personalized financial advice tailored to client goal, risk appetite and investment horizon. Right, and research analysts, they are governed by SEBI Research Analyst Regulation of 2014, not 13, right. Analyze securities sectors or instruments and publish independent research reports, right. So the correct statement here should be IS follow fee only model, RS publish independent research reports. Independent research reports, but they followed fee only model. They give financial advice to the client of them, right. So your correct statement will be option number B. Clear? Now our next question is question number 3, that is related to non-benchmark indices structure norms. So SEBI's new norms for non-benchmark indices used for derivatives include which of the following? These are the 3 points given over here, right. And as per SEBI's new norms for non-benchmark indices used for derivatives, which of the following are included in them, right. So first let me show you from where this question has been taken from. This was the news, right. SEBI has introduced norms for derivative products on non-benchmark indices like Bank Nifty, FIN50 and BankX to prevent concentration risk and reduce chances of index manipulation, right. So first statement is minimum 14 constituents should be there, as you can see here, right. Yeah, minimum constituents 14 stocks should be there, right. 14 stocks should be there, which means your first statement is absolutely correct. The next one is maximum 25% with the largest stocks, right. Maximum 25% weight for the largest stocks. 25% weight for the largest stocks, I don't think so. Largest top stock cap, largest stock should be 20%. This was the limit, which means your second statement is absolutely incorrect. The third one is combined weight of top 3 stocks capped at 45%. Yes, top 3 stocks are capped at 45%, which means your 1 and 3 statements are correct. Your correct answer here will be option number C, 1 and 3 only. Clear? Right. So this was all about this news, and whatever were important related to news, I just picked that content and create a question among them, right. So in order to give you a brief idea about the news. Clear? Now moving on to our next question, question number 4. Right. Question number 4. Fine. The new SEBI norms, this is related to applicability of new index norms, right. The new SEBI norms on concentration limits apply to whom? Nifty 50 and Sensex only, all sectoral indices, or only equity benchmark indices, non-benchmark indices with derivative contracts, or all indices traded on stock exchange. As you can see here, applicability is clearly written over here, mentioned over here. It is only applicable to non-benchmark indices with existing or planned derivative contract. right? Non-benchmark indices with derivative contracts. Option number D is the correct answer, and benchmark indices like Nifty, Sensex are not covered in this particular benchmark, right? So your correct answer here will be option number D. Clear? Now let's move on to our next question, that is question number 5, which is related to fit and proper person rule, right? So these are the statement given over here, 3 statements. We have to again find out the correct ones here. Now this is the news from which this question has been taken from, right? Hope the news is clearly visible to you, right? Now let's see the question. What is the question is all about? Consider the following statement regarding SEBI's fit and proper persons rule. The first statement is automatic disqualification is triggered merely on filling of charge sheet. The second one is the rule was originally introduced in 2021. SEBI has agreed to review the provision following petitions before the Bombay High Court, right? This statement is a type of very general statement, right? It completely depends on the news. Now if you see the statements, right, the first statement was कि automatic disqualification is triggered merely on filing of a charge sheet, right? So this applies to individual associated with SEBI regulated intermediaries, brokers, mutual fund investment advisors and rating agencies. It aims to ensure integrity, competence and sound reputation in market governance, right? But the main thing here is the rule was originally introduced in 2021. No, it was introduced in back 2004. Later it was included in SEBI's intermediaries regulation of 2008, but in November 2021 it has been amended to replace case by case assessment with automatic trigger based disqualification, which means your automatic disqualification is triggered merely on filing of a charge sheet is absolutely correct, but the second statement is wrong, right? Now the third statement, SEBI has agreed to review the provision following the petition before the Bombay High Court. Yes, this news is all about the, as you can see here, Bombay High Court, right? So your correct statement here will be option number B, right? 1 and 3 only. Clear? 1 and 3 only is the correct answer of the question. And don't worry, I will provide you the PDF of this session in our Telegram channel. You can just join the Telegram channel and download it for free, right? Now question number 6, stock lending and borrowing mechanism, SLBM. This is a very important mechanism as far as your SEBI examination is concerned, right? So which of the following is not a benefit of stock lending and borrowing mechanism? Which of the following is not a benefit of the stock lending and borrowing mechanism, right? And these are the 5 statements given over here. Now these are the 5 statements given over here. The first statement is it enables short selling, improves price discovery, generates lending income for investors, eliminates settlement risk completely or enhances market liquidity, right? These are the 5 statements. So from where this news has been taken from? This question has been taken from this news only. SEBI is reviewing the stock lending and borrowing mechanism to improve its effectiveness and boost market participation as short selling through SLBM remains limited in India. And what is this framework is all about? It is about, it allows investors to temporarily lend or borrow securities mainly to facilitate short selling and hedging as well as market making, right? So this framework is all about temporarily lending or borrowing securities in the market, right? And here it is, the question is, what was our question? The question was, yeah, what is the benefit of stock lending and borrowing mechanism, right? So it must be mentioned somewhere here, what is the benefit, right? Enables short selling, better price, supports hedging strategy for institution, generates additional income for long term investment, enhance market liquidity and depth, right? And it enables short selling, which is not, right? So the question is, which is not a benefit of stock lending borrowing mechanism, right? So this was the question, right? It is asking about the not part. So it enables short selling, absolutely correct. It improves price discovery, absolutely correct. It generates lending income for investors, absolutely correct. Eliminates settlement risk completely. So these type of statements tends to be incorrect, because these are very absolute statements, right? Because they are asking that it eliminates the risk completely. There is no any framework which eliminates risk completely. There is always a chances of risk, which means your option number D tends to be incorrect, right? And it enhances market liquidity, obviously. So your correct answer here will be option number D, right? Clear? So we have covered this SLBM framework as well. Now let's move on to our question number 7. Minimum public shareholding, that is MPS. The standard minimum public shareholdings requirement for listed companies in India is 10%, 15%, 20%, 25% or 30%. Very important for your examination, right? So let me show you from where this question has been taken from. Yeah. So the question is, the standard minimum public shareholding, that is MPS, requirement for your listed companies in India is it 10%, 15%, 20%, 25% or 30%? Tell me. Is it 10%, 20%, 15% or 25%? As you can see here, I have clearly shown you, right? Regulatory requirement in India. So what is this MPS? MPS refers to the minimum percentage of listed companies equity shares that must be held by the public, that is non-promoters. This is called as minimum public shareholdings, right? And as far as the regulatory requirement is concerned, standard MPS 25% public shareholdings should be there for listed companies. So the correct answer will be option number D, 25%. Clear? Now let's move on to our next question. Relaxation in MPS norms, right? So already I show you this particular news. So this question is also from there only, right? So under SEBI's relaxed MPS framework for large companies at IPO stage, public shareholdings must be at least 10% at listing. Companies must reach 25% MPS within 3 years, right? Initial shareholding can be low as 2.5%. Relaxation applies to all listed companies. These are very extreme statements, right? So these statement tends to be incorrect. But let's see. Promoters holding is capped at 60%, right? So as per the new norms of MPS, that is minimum public shareholdings, these are some of the statements given over here, and you have to find out the correct one here, not the incorrect one, right? Now as you can see, companies have 10 years to achieve the standard 25% MPS. So it is clearly written over here कि companies have 10 years to achieve the standard 25% MPS, not 3 years. Incorrect. Next, large companies can list with as little as 2.5% public shareholdings. Initial public shareholdings can be as low as 2.5%. Absolutely correct. This must be the correct answer, right? Option number C. But let's see other options as well. Large issuer with wealthy promoter, substantial pre-IPO private equity strategic placements, and some government owned enterprises. Relaxation applies to all state. This is absolutely incorrect. The next one was promoter holding is capped at 60%, right? It is not mentioned over here. It is capped at 60% or any type of percent. So your option number E is also incorrect, right? So here the most logical and rational answer should be, according to the content what we have, option number C. Initial public shareholdings can be as low as 2.5%. Clear? Option number C. Now, the next question is related to angel funds and PPM disclosure, right? PPM disclosure. What are angel funds? The most important part of the question is angel funds, right? So these are category 1 SEBI registered alternative investment funds investing in early stage startups, which invest in early stage startups, right? These are basically under alternative investment funds, and this is a very favorite topic of SEBI as well as all regulatory body examination. And from this topic a question has been asked from in your UPSC prelims examination, right? So this topic is very important, AIF. Now let's move on to one question. SEBI extended the deadline for angel funds to disclose allocation methodology in the PPM primarily to increase retail investor participation, align with RBI guidelines, reduce tax liability, provide ease of compliance, or promote foreign investments, right? These are the 5 options given over here, and the SEBI extend to deadline the angel fund to disclose allocation methodology in the PPM primarily to, what is the aim? To provide ease of compliance and advocate time for angel funds to align for documentation with SEBI requirements, right? Provide ease of compliance. Option number D is your correct answer. Clear? This was a simple question. What is private placement memorandum? These are formal document detailing investment strategy, risk factor allocation methodology, and fees and terms. It ensures transparency and informed decision making for investors. Clear? Now, our next question is about insider trading. In the Indian Energy Exchange, that is IEX insider trading case, SEBI primarily used which power? Which of these power has been used by SEBI as far as the IEX case of insider trading is concerned? This is the question, right? So let's see what was the news. SEBI barred 8 individuals from securities market and impounds 1731.14 crore in alleged illegal gains from trades in Indian Energy Exchange for insider trading violation, right? So what is this insider trading? This is the main thing you must know: buying or selling securities using unpublished price sensitive information, that is UPSI, that can materially affect securities prices. This is known as insider trading, right? SEBI regulation prohibits for insider trading 2015. This is the act you must know as far as your examination is concerned, right? Now, so here the most important part is to know about insider trading, and the this act defines insider trading and insider roles, right? So cancellation of company. So what action did SEBI take as far as this case is concerned, right? This is the question. So levy of transaction tax, suspension of stock exchange, impounding of unlawful gains, cancellation of company listing, or merger approval. So in this case SEBI did right, impounding of unlawful gains. This was all about this particular news, right, because some individual has been caused for insider trading case and SEBI has took action against IEX, that is Indian Energy Exchange. Clear? And they have took action against this company according to the regulation, SEBI regulation of prohibition of insider trading act of 2015. This is very important for your examination. Clear? So option number C is your correct answer. Impounding of unlawful gains, right? Next question. Pre-2019 physical securities. SEBI proposed relaxation of transfer of pre-2019 physical securities, which aims to reintroduce physical share trading, allow indefinite transfer without demat. Demat is a demat account, right, from where trading took place. Provide a one-time window with due diligence, waive stamp duty permanently or exempt such securities from SEBI oversight. Right, as you can see, SEBI proposes relaxation of transfer, relaxation of transfer of pre-2019 securities. Right. Now, what was the news was all about? The purpose was to simplify demat process for pre-2019 transaction, to provide allow indefinite transfers without demat, or to provide a one-time window with due diligence, and to offer additional opportunity for investor to submit transfer deed for physical securities. The news was SEBI has proposed amendments to LODR regulation 2015 to facilitate the transfer and dematerialization of securities before April 1, 2019 to provide relief to investors who missed earlier regulations deadline, right? And what was the proposed mechanism? Temporary relaxation under regulation 41 clause 1, transfer allowed after due diligence by registered transfer agents and listed companies. Securities credit directly to demat accounts upon successful registration, right? So the correct answer here will be option number C, provide a one time window with due diligence, right? Clear? Now, KYC for mutual fund, yeah, this question we have already covered, right? So question number 12, KYC for mutual fund investors. Consider the following statement. SEBI proposes that new mutual fund investment be allowed only after KYC is marked compliant. C, KYC is managed by SEBI. Lack of KYC interoperability can block redemptions. Right, these are the three statements as you can see here. Mutual fund seeks wider operational flexibility from SEBI. This was the news, right? And let me show you a brief detailed news about this particular topic, right? From here this question has been taken from. So SEBI has proposed stricter KYC verification norms for mutual fund investor to enhance compliance, reduce unclaimed dividends, redemptions, and ensure full verification before investments, right? So SEBI proposes that new MF investments can be allowed only after KYC is marked compliant. Let's see. First time investment on new policies accepted only after KYC is fully verified marked compliant by the KYC registration agency, that is KRA, right? So your first statement is correct. Second statement, C, KYC is managed by SEBI, absolutely incorrect. C, KYC is managed by KSI, manages C, KYC and Central Asset Reconstruction Securities Interest. What is C, KYC? Centralized government registry usable across banks, insurance, mutual funds and pensions as well, right? So his second statement is absolutely incorrect. Lack of KYC interoperability can block redemption. right? This statement is also correct. Can block redemption, prevent unclaimed dividends and block redemption, right? So your correct answer will be option number B, 1 and 3 only. Clear? Next question, question number 13. This is related to MCX trading disruption. Multi commodity exchange of India is, what is this multi commodity exchange of India? This is the question, as you can see here, about MCX. A multi commodity exchange of India is a government owned exchange regulated by RBI, a demutualized exchange regulated by SEBI or a subsidiary was of NSE, or an unregulated OTC commodity platform, or exclusively for agriculture commodities. These are the 5 options. What is this multi commodity exchange? These are largest commodity derivative exchange in India, which provide a platform for hedging, price discovery and risk management. It was established in 2003, headquarters Mumbai, Maharashtra. Regulation, ownership, it is regulated by SEBI and operates as a demutualized exchange. Ownership separates from trading membership, right? So what will be the correct answer here? You guys tell me what will be the correct answer here. Option number what? It is very clearly written over here, it operates as a demutualized exchange, right, under SEBI. It is regulated by SEBI. So your correct answer will be option number B. Clear? Option number B is your correct answer. Let me just, yeah, option number B is your correct answer. Question number 14, mutual fund regulatory overhaul. Which of the following measures is a part of SEBI's proposal to reduce mutual fund investor cost? Mutual fund investor costs, right? Is it inclusion of GST in TER, higher exit load charges, brokerage rate cuts, mandatory newspaper advertisement, or higher transaction of taxes? Right, as you can see here, SEBI has proposed simpler mutual fund rules to cut investor costs, right? So it is for brokerage rate cuts, right? SEBI has proposed a comprehensive overhaul mutual fund regulation to make them simpler, transparent, investors, reduce cost and streamline operational and regulatory compliance, right? So your correct answer will be option number C. ठीक है, last but not the least, performance linked TER, that is your total expensive ratio. So what is performance linked total expensive ratio refers to? TER fixed by SEBI annually, TER linked to inflation, TER varying with scheme returns, or TER applicable only to ETFs, exchange traded fund, or TER excluding management fees. What is this performance linked total expensive ratio? Right, as you can see here, somewhere this this particular term must be updated, right? TER, total annual cost of scheme as a percentage of asset, total annual cost of scheme as percentage of assets. And performance linked TER, it is a fee based on scheme performance. So what will be the correct answer? TER varying with scheme returns. Performance linked refers to varying with scheme returns. Option number C, right? Option number C is your correct answer. Clear? Right? So that's it for the session. Hope you enjoyed the video and hope you have gone through this session thoroughly. And this is our SEBI Sprint Mentorship program where you can enhance your SEBI preparation, right? So that's it for the session. I'll provide you the PDF of this session in our Telegram channel. You can directly go to our Telegram channel and download the PDF from there, right? So that's it for the session. Thank you so much. Hit the like button, do subscribe our YouTube channel, follow us on Telegram and Instagram as well for daily updates. Thank you so much.